Well, so I actually have an interesting comment that I got on a YouTube video recently that I think I could real quickly just bring this up. So this was in my like netcode for entities big, complete course tutorial. So in there, when I was kind of like setting up my project settings, I had IL2CPP enabled. And then this user here, Saito853, says the reason for not using IL2CPP yet is because the build time you can get pretty long during development. You usually have multiple iterations of the game to either fix minor bugs and errors or tweak different system changes. It's much better to just not enable IL2CPP until you actually build a production ready version. So yeah, basically just kind of build with mono, as you're developing, and then use IL2CPP when you're ready kind of for that final production build.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say only built with mono. Also, there is a setting not a lot of people know about, which is you can also disable burst in builds, which is not you know how you disable normally burst by going into jobs and then setting
Yeah,
disable
inside the
burst.
editor. Yep.
Yeah, because that setting won't disable in builds. When you go build, it will still use burst. You actually have to find I think it's in player settings or something similar to that. If
Right.
you just
Right.
search in the settings panel, you can search burst or disable burst. Then you will find it. That will actually disable burst also in builds, which means you can now have like a fast, efficient way to build that will only take like a minute or so for small game projects, which is very important when you're doing netcode, because netcode you have to like sort of test if your multiplayer solution works for you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and make a player build. And yeah, so I generally recommend just disabling burst and disabling IL2CPP, aka going to mono, and in the future going to core CLR when that is a possibility.
Oh yeah. Very excited for that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, I thought this was like a super interesting solution to it. I guess I didn't really put two and two together about IL2CPP being kind of like a cause of slower build times. Because yeah, one thing that I had noticed as I was kind of like prototyping out the netcode for entities project, I wasn't using any like the multiplayer play mode tools. So because this was a networked project, and if I wanted to test out two instances of it to make sure things that were actually synchronizing, I would have to create a new build of it. And then, yeah, even for me on this very simple, MOBA game project that doesn't have a whole lot of systems, doesn't have a whole lot of assets or anything like that, every single time I want to make a build, on clean builds, incremental builds, I mean, it was like at least 3 to 5 minutes every time. So that was quite annoying, going through all that. But yeah, I haven't actually done a timing difference on this particular project by using disabling IL2CPP. So I'd be kind of curious to see how long projects take for just kind of regular builds as well as incremental builds. Where again, it was kind of annoying because like I'd do a test and it was like something that wouldn't work, and then I would have to make just like a small code change to fix that, and then it's like boom, another 3 to 5 minutes waiting for a build. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, it also makes sense that IL2CPP is so slow. It's you know IL2CPP, which means that it first has to become IL, which means that it's C sharp becomes IL through the Roslyn compiler, becomes IL2CPP. So now it's C++ code,
Right.
which
Yeah,
then
we
has
probably
to
should
run
have.
through an actual compiler to turn into the final binary information. There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas if it was just, I mean, that's also the reason, by the way, why burst is so slow, because it has to do IL becomes no C sharp becomes IL becomes LLVM IR, then LLVM has to run to turn it into actual fast code, binary code, machine code. But yeah, if you have to do that for both IL2CPP and burst, then it's just a very slow process. And Mono can just like read the IL directly, anyways, which is why
Yeah.
that's fast, but also runtime slow.
Yeah. And just for context, IL is intermediate language, so it basically means intermediate language to C++ is what that
Yeah.
IL2CPP stands
Exactly.
for. Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting comment, so just kind of wanted to share that here.